suppose we need to back up a little and explain how it got to this point. Cadillac has a problem. Well, actually, we as consumers have a problem, and that in turn is causing Cadillac to have a problem. You see, it's actually Cadillac that builds some of the best sports sedans to ever grace a showroom floor. But we aren't buying them, because we're too busy instead rewarding bad behavior and buying BMWs. Despite the Bavarians making rod bearings out of paper mache and not knowing how to make a piece of rubber or plastic last more than 50,000 miles, we just can't help ourselves and we keep buying BMW M3s. When in reality, we should be sprinting full speed, fighting off the yearning masses to buy this instead, the Cadillac CT4-V Blackwing. One of the first vehicles I ever reviewed for this channel was the Cadillac ATS-V. And I remember driving the absolute wheels off that car. I put more miles in that press car than any other car I've ever driven. And now, driving its successor, the CT4-V Blackwing, it reminds me of all the good feelings that the ATS-V had. I suppose I should back up. What the hell is a CT4-V Blackwing? Well, CT4 is the replacement to the ATS, like I mentioned. It's Cadillac's small sedan designed to kind of do battle with the BMW 3 Series, Mercedes-Benz C-Class, things like that. Now before, the V used to be the go-fast version. However, Cadillac has kind of had a bit of a rethink there, and now V is more like the equivalent to BMW M Sport or like Audi S. It's the sportier one, but not the sportiest one. If you want the sportiest one now, it's the V Blackwing, like this vehicle. The naming behind Blackwing is convoluted and kind of annoying. There was going to be a whole Blackwing family of engines, but that kind of got nixed, and now it's just kind of a nameplate for high performance. Regardless, it sounds cool, and what's better is that these cars are amazing to drive, as you might be able to tell from my very happy face. The CT4-V Blackwing rolls on General Motors' Alfa platform. That's the same thing shared with the Chevy Camaro, another vehicle I love. And it's no surprise, being an Alfa platform vehicle, that dynamics in handling are the key takeaways to the CT4-V Blackwing's story here. This thing handles amazingly. But as you might be able to tell, there is a big-time powertrain at play here with the Blackwing. It's a direct evolution of the ATS-V. It's a 3.6-liter V6 engine that is twin turbocharged and produces 472 horsepower and 444 pound-feet of torque, which is sent to the rear wheels only as God intended. Oh, hi there. It's your boy, just checking in. Are you enjoying the video so far? Well, of course you are. That's because this is some grade A primo content we're talking about. So go ahead and show your support by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. It's free and helps the channel. All right, back to the video. You can get the glorious Tremec TR6060 6-speed stick like our test car, or General Motors 10-speed automatic transmission, the 10L90E. Both are fantastic, but if you are a true driver, you're going to want the stick because this thing is so good. The entire driver interaction, from pressing the clutch pedal to using the shifter, is perfect. Everything is so nicely weighted and communicative. It's like shaking hands with an old friend. It's just so reassuring. Equally reassuring is the fact that General Motors has used a high-capacity twin-disc clutch. Sorry, nerd talk. But that means this thing can handle a lot of heat and a lot of torque, which is good because this engine has so much torque. As you might be able to tell, it also sounds pretty vicious. V6s can sound a bit harsh, but I would say GM's 3.6 V6, whether it's naturally aspirated or this twin turbo form, is about as good as a V6 is gonna sound. And I love that this is actually a bit louder than the ATS-V this car replaces. The ATS-V was a bit of a Q car. It was kind of anonymous. It had so much performance, but looking at it, you'd never really know. The CT4 is more aggressive inside and out. The exterior styling is more bold, and this V Blackwing has a much more authoritative voice. If you can't tell, the Blackwing loves to be driven hard. I guess that explains why it does 0 to 60 in 4 seconds flat and has a top speed of 189 miles per hour. This thing is vicious and wicked and fast. Though, for the more conscientious buyers out there, it's worth noting this thing does have EPA fuel economy ratings of 15 mpg city, 23 mpg in the freeway, and 18 mpg combined. Though, good luck getting any of those figures because this thing encourages fast driving. As potent as this engine is, part of me still thinks to myself, well, General Motors does have a really good 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8 they could have used instead, and I think I might have slightly preferred that still to this twin turbo V6, though I know why Cadillac does it. This is a bespoke engine to just Cadillac. It makes their vehicles more special and unique in that way, but man, part of me still just kind of hankers for that V8 rumble instead. Sorry, Cadillac. While this monster motor is very much appreciated, it does not overwhelm the driving experience. Like I mentioned before, the CT4-V rolls on the Alfa platform. It's one of General Motors' best chassis they've ever devised. It's so willing and eager and has this great front end bite. But it's really the fine tuning and the performance hardware you get on the Blackwing that makes this thing so special. Brembo stoppers, 6 pistons up front, 4 in the back behind 18-inch wheels, massively gripped up with 255 section width fronts and 275 section width rear, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S summer rubber. It also helps this thing has GM's magnetic ride control suspension. Those are fancy adaptive dampers that can adjust up to 1,000 times per second for the differences in the road conditions. Also, this is one of those vehicles where the drive mode selector down here notably changes the personality of the car. It changes the steering feedback, the braking feedback, the dampers, the exhaust. And so if you put this thing in V mode, it feels amazing. There's a slight tendency towards understeer at the limit, which means you can push really hard. And it encourages you to push hard. It's not going to be snappy or scary. It's a fantastic driving partner. What's really cool is that Cadillac wants owners to get out and really drive these things. If you buy a Blackwing, you get a complimentary Cadillac V Driving Academy experience where they'll teach you how to wheel these things on the racetrack, which is awesome because owners of these sports sedans should really appreciate them at their best. And if you go on the racetrack and really let this thing loose, I promise you, it will be worth it. Going along with that is the fact that Cadillac has a really aggressive cooling package on this car, which means you can pound on this thing lap after lap, and the powertrain does not care. This thing also has an electronically controlled limited slip rear end, like what you'd find on the Camaro SS1 LE. and it does a fantastic job of maximizing corner exit traction. Though if you turn off all the safety aids, it will happily do the slippery slidey type stuff as well. But if you can't tell, the big characteristic of this chassis is grip, 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 and more grip. But because this thing is so filled with feedback, the feedback from the steering wheel for a modern car is great. It doesn't feel distant. Some cars, when they're super gripped up and have so much capabilities, it feels like you can never approach them as a result. But this thing, if you get in and grab it by the scruff of the neck and drive it really hard, it rewards you with all this fantastic feedback. And the coolest thing of all this performance hardware is standard. If you buy a zero option 60 grand CT4-V Blackwing, which is 11 grand less than the base price of a BMW M3, mind you, you get all this performance hardware. There are no add-ons here in that regard, which makes this one of the best sports sedan deals I've ever heard of. A 60 grand base price is actually 8 grand less than the ATS-V it replaces. I'm not sure how Cadillac does that, but good for them. When you drive this car, and I mean really drive it, you become acutely aware that the team of people who developed this, who made this into reality, really care about the act of driving. And not just in the, yes, this thing can do blazing fast lap times on the racetrack if you request it to do so sort of thing, but it really is in the tactility, in the engagement, in a way that most modern sports sedans really cannot replicate. It is just uncanny how much this thing wants to play along with you and have fun. But here's the thing. When you back off and put it into tour mode, sure, the ride's always going to be firm. This is a Blackwing after all, but the cabin is isolated and quiet and comfortable. And unlike Cadillacs of the past, this interior, a place where you're going to spend a lot of time, is really, really nice. Let me show you. The Blackwing's interior is a huge upgrade over its predecessor, the ATS-V. The caliber of the materials in here is quite nice overall, thanks to $5,500 worth of interior upgrades. So you have extended leather all across the dash and door cards and a mix of carbon fiber and Alcantara throughout. All the touch points in here feel really nice. The standard tech is very good in this vehicle. There's a 14-speaker stereo system, wireless phone charging, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and this updated 12-inch infotainment display that is common with other GM vehicles, but is totally fine with me because the interface is straightforward, simple, and easy to use. A big upgrade over the outgoing Q system, which was terrible. Then there are other day-to-day luxuries like a heated steering wheel and heated seats as standard, though bundled into that upgrade pack I mentioned a second ago with these fancy tri-tone seats, they are also ventilated and have a massage function. Also worth pointing out is the fact that at 6'1", I fit in all 4 seats of the CT4-V no problem, and the trunk is cavernous. So let's say I've sold you on a CT4-V Blackwing to buck the BMW establishment and try something different. What do you need to know? Well, like I mentioned before, base prices for the 6-shift version is 60 grand. The 10-speed automatic is 3 grand more, and if you've watched this channel for long enough, you know my recommendation is the stick. It's so good. But the 10-speed's fine too if that's your thing. It's worth noting this test vehicle is 76 grand. That means there is 16 grand worth of options on this vehicle. I mentioned there's $5,500 worth of interior upgrades, extended leather, ventilated seats, things like that. I would say those are worth getting. This car also has 7 grand worth of carbon fiber upgrades on it. As you can tell, there's a splitter, there's dive planes, there's a high kick spoiler, side skirts. Now, I think the $4,000 worth of carbon fiber option, the carbon fiber 1 package, is plenty if that's your thing. That'll get you the high ticket items like the spoiler and the splitter and the dive planes. As cool as things like the carbon skirts are, well, do you really need them? I think the wing and the splitter have the most visual impact here. So if carbon fiber is your thing, look at the carbon fiber 1 pack for $4,000 instead. The electric blue is a $600 surcharge. I think that's well worth it. It's a great color. This car has the performance data recorder for $1,600. That has a really cool track day visual recording system that records the front-facing camera in 1080p and then overlays data for a really cool track day video experience. Though if you're a hardcore track day nerd like me, you probably already have a GoPro and probably a data logger like a V-Box or an AIM Solo, so you can skip that if you'd like. I think my ideal spec for this vehicle is right around $72,000 to $73,000. And that's basically the base price of a BMW M3 with no options. So with the Cadillac CT4-V Blackwing, we have a vehicle that is in seemingly every way an improvement over its predecessor. It has a nicer interior, better tech, a more engaging drive somehow. And if you're diligent with the options, it's substantially less expensive than its European rivals. And if you consider yourself to be a driving enthusiast or a car enthusiast of any sort, you absolutely owe it to yourself to go give this thing a test drive. Because the way this thing drives and the way this thing makes you feel from behind the wheel is so special. In any case, guys, my name is Jake. You've been watching Drive, Brake, Fix, Repeat, and I'll see you guys next time where I go do more fun things with cars. Bye.